Welcome back to the Thrill of Driving podcast. Now, this is the third and the final edition of our Best of 2021 series. And in this one, we're also going to be talking about the cars and SUVs that have been launched in 2022, in Jan of 2022. And this is focused on luxury. The luxury cars, luxury hatchbacks, if there is such a segment, and the luxury SUVs. We've got the boss man, Adil, back with us in the studio. Adil, what do you want to start with? The hatchbacks, the luxury cars, the luxury SUVs, or the sports?
I want to start with one very important aspect about this category of buyer who's going to be. Less is never enough for these guys.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah. So again, like I said, for them, if you are looking at a Mercedes at 50 lakhs and you're looking at an AMG version at 75 lakhs, inevitably, that guy is in a big dilemma. He wants to spend those 75 lakhs, but he knows that the practical thing is the 50 lakh. But still, given the way the world has shaped up over the last 2 years, I think he'll go in for the 75 lakh rupee one. So that's how I see the things right now.
So on that bombshell, let me remind you, if you enjoy this podcast, hit the like button. If you enjoy it, also share it with like-minded enthusiasts. The podcast is available on YouTube. Watch it on YouTube because we got a lot of comments over there. I guess people are a little more interactive on YouTube, but it's also there on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast while driving to work, though most of everybody is working from home, right?
Sure.
So you can watch it on YouTube.
But guys, please go out to work as well, because that's very important. We can't have you cooped up inside because you can't drive a car sitting at home.
And drop us a comment. Tell us what we should be talking about. So let us jump right into the sports cars because like Adil said, now you have the option of a Mercedes at 50 lakhs or an AMG at 75 lakhs. What should you buy? We will tell you, obviously buy the AMG. To hell with the practicality side of things. But the fact is that AMGs today aren't very impractical, are they?
No, they have learned to survive on our fabled indifferent terrain. So in that sort of sense, and like last time also we mentioned, ride quality is so paramount. So when you are looking at the upper crest, these guys know how to manage the balance between ride quality and handling. So they've got that sussed out. So that's where you put the extra money in.
Yeah.
That's how it happens.
So the most important thing that happened last year was AMG started assembling in India. I think India is the fourth or the fifth market in the world where AMGs are being assembled. And we started off with the A35, the limousine, the A35 AMG. That was monumental because it showed that the market is there now for AMGs also to be assembled in India.
Sirish, it's like this. The leader sets the tone, leader sets the pace, leader sets the direction. Mercedes-Benz is working exactly like a leader ought to. So no wonder that it has been doing it in that manner. And it had the wherewithal to say, let's strike out in this direction. We have done so much for the luxury, performance, prestige segment. I think let's push the envelope a little further there. And I think it's logical. What they have done across over there, can you beat it? Mercedes-Benz started with the E-Class in 1995-96 at about 20 lakhs of rupees. Today, there's no Mercedes at 20 lakh of rupees.
That's true.
So that's how the pace goes. But it's hard-earned knowledge, hard-earned lessons on the ground they have learned. They've taken knocks also. But now, over the last 7-8 years, they have consistently got their act up in such a manner that even a 10-speed gearbox is not enough for them.
So the A35, it is the same body shell as the regular A35, the limousine, but it is lower, it is sportier.
Under the skin, there's so much of difference across those.
It's braced, it's tightened, it handles better. The ride quality is stiffer, the ground clearance is lower, but this is an AMG. It ought to feel like an AMG. It feels like a regular A30.
You can't have a lipstick job here.
Exactly.
Okay. And in that manner, I've seen many guys who buy these AMG bolt-on kits, the stickers, the stripes and whatnot. Forget AMG, even the M-Class, M stuff from BMW and from Audi Sport and whatnot.
And they forget to take out the 520D badge. So you have the M5 on one side and the 520D badge on the other side.
Yes. The fact of the matter is, this is where I think you, push your thoughts in a direction where you take a lot of people along with you and you take it in a meaningful manner. Mercedes-Benz is doing that.
And they are doing well. The A35 AMG has got good response, and also
It's a great car.
It's a great car. But another great car, an affordable, sort of affordable, sporty car, was the M340i.
Yes.
What a car, Adil.
What happens there, in that sort of a manner, the way Mercedes-Benz has sold the idea to, BMW has not sold the idea to. So I'm not saying that it makes it a lesser car, but the fact of the matter is the market is so impressionable here. Unless and until you don't, push it in the eyes of the buying public. And let's face one thing. BMW, Audi, Jaguar, Volvo, etc. have never been vocal or have been next to no voices have come from their end to the masses. They may have come to us. We can do only so much and not more, but they have not gone to the masses to speak about their car. Is it reticence? Is it the thing, wait and watch? They'll wait and watch till someone else takes the cheese and the milk and the butter across. So in that sort of a manner, great cars, I always said last time also, a great car needs great nurturing. And I think that's where I think the rest of the pack have not learned from Mercedes-Benz.
I think BMW M underestimate the potential and also the relevance of their brand, because M enthusiasts, there are so many. The M340i, they were sold out, I think, in a matter of weeks. They didn't expect the kind of response that car would get. And you got to remember that the M340i, to the naked eye, to a regular, it looks the same right, as a 3 Series. But those who know, they know.
That is a great car. It is unbelievable car. The mannerisms of that car in any aspect are phenomenal. The dynamics of that machine, and it's like a very big last generation 5,
Yes.
It's almost that way. The way she lays the power, the precise steering, the feel, everything is top notch. Unfortunately, one more thing, sometimes success goes to such a thing that the company can't make capital out of it. When you get it sold out so quickly, maybe it's allotments, or maybe you didn't plan to get more. So this is also something which BMW needs to factor in.
So this has got all-wheel drive, X-Drive powertrain.
Yes.
It does not have drift mode, but you can drift it. You can go sideways.
I don't like this drift mode.
Oh, I love it.
I know that you love it. Most of the guys who will buy it want to just slow the throttle and go straight. That's how I see majority of the guys who buy these cars here.
But nowadays, the whole track day phenomena has really exploded. People are taking their cars to the racetrack, and that's a safe place where you can go nuts. So after you finished with your 4 or 5 sessions on Sunday, finally when you're loading your car back onto the truck, go and do 3-4 sideways laps, destroy the tires, and then load the car back on the truck. So that's a good thing to do. So the 340i,
I think there's one more thing which I'd like to add as far as BMW is concerned. I think BMW is also planning for an electrified future. So maybe it doesn't want to be placed very thin on the ground with lots of support stuff and whatnot for these cars. So maybe that could be that part of their logic, for which reason they are not pushing many others in that same way in the public eye,
So Adil, just before you came to the office to do this podcast, I got information that the M4, the new M4 Competition, is launching this month. I hear it is the 10th of February, but somewhere around February, it's going to be launched. Expected price around 1.5 crore rupees, which is a lot, but
which is not a lot for that set.
fair enough, but no M3. It'll only be the M4. What do you make of that?
I think that in a way, as I've seen it here in India, when you pay money, you want to see a lot of car or a lot of metal. So maybe in this way, maybe involuntarily or whatever, maybe BMW's got it right that they've got the M4 going across over there. It's a little bit more substantial vehicle than the M3. But at the end of the day, the dynamics will be as good, if not better. So I don't think anyone will miss out more. And plus, BMW will make a good killing on the margins there.
Yeah, definitely. So let's go through the other sports cars that were launched. Last year, Audi, we spoke about that last time also.
They came back.
Audi came back.
They came back.
And they had the S5, the facelift on the
Yes.
S5, and they also had the RS5. Now, until maybe next week, until the M3, M4 gets launched, the RS5 has been in a sweet spot because there's been no C63, there's been no M3. It was phased out. So it was in a space all of its own, and also it did a really good job. Okay, you couldn't drift it, but apart from that, Audi RS cars have always impressed with the phenomenal amount of grip that they have.
They are
the ride comfort.
There is no taking away anything from what we expect these RS badged versions to be. My take is now what has happened is when you go back about 15 years ago when Audi came into this country, it spelled excitement. Somehow or the other, that excitement quotient got dumbed down, got washed away somewhere. Now they're rebuilding it. That rebuilding phase, what they have got, the car is really excellent. How do you, again, like the same syndrome which afflicts BMW with not going to the masses, or that segment in a far more determined manner, the same thing holds true for Audi as well. And Shirish, if you care to look at all these cars, the differentiation is hardly anything between them.
Yeah.
Some may be good in one aspect, the other is just close behind. One may have his nose in some other aspect. So what I'm saying, in this battle of perception is where the people who buy these cars really matter. And that perception battle, I don't think BMW and Audi are winning it hands down.
As well as what AMG is doing.
Yes. Mercedes and AMG.
So the RS5, we drove it at Natrax. That was our first experience of the Natrax high-speed test track. We did
It's an ideal place for you to drive a car like that.
So we did 275 kilometers per hour. Then we drove it at the handling track at the Natrax facility. And that, I don't think I would be able to really go for it in an M3 or even in a C63 because you always have that itch to switch off ESP. Yeah. And the high speed, the handling track at the Natrax does not have runoffs. Yeah. If you go off, you're gone off.
Your history.
And that's where the RS5, that's where it, that sense of security that it gives you, that it's going to take care of you, that really came to the fore. But let's talk about the Natrax. What do you think of that facility?
It's a great facility. Having looked at this sort of a proving ground and which has been in the making for the last 15-16 years, I feel that in 15-16 years they could do this, which is phenomenal compared to when you talk about the VRD where the work started in the 70s and it really came to life only in the 90s. So, and that too, okay, the VRD was with the template of 1960s Myra in England. This is top-notch contemporary. And honestly speaking, if you care to the surfacing, the way the banking is seamlessly merges with the straights, all the plethora of all the other tracks, the handling track, forget the handling track for the cars, look at the handling track for the bikes. It's phenomenal.
Yeah. This track, you can do a neutral speed of 250 kilometers per hour, which means on the bankings, you can take your hands off the steering wheel at 250 kilometers per hour. You can do in excess of 300 kilometers per hour. And the thing that really strikes you is that when you enter the banking, there is not a bump. You don't feel
That's
anything.
What I'm saying.
It is so seamless.
Absolutely. So that's what I'm saying. It is so naturally oriented that when you steer, you don't need to steer it. The car steers for itself when you go across. And I think the designers who did that and the engineers who built it, they have to be complimented, man. One more thing. Thank God, no Babu wanted to come and put speed breakers there to the entry.
Proper world-class testing facility in India. And what will that deliver? That will deliver more dynamically sorted cars for you and me to buy. Because when engineers test their cars at those kind of speeds, all the flaws get ironed out. And that makes it great cars to drive at regular sane speeds.
That's precisely why you have test tracks. And see, in India, the way manufacturers used to test cars, more for endurance and reliability. As the motoring public matured in its requirements, its aspirations. They wanted to get the more esoteric facts of motoring. They wanted to have a feel good at 60, feel good at 100, feel good at 150. There are three different things. So you could not achieve that in an ordinary manner of going to a VRD or something. And here you have got that. The cadre of engineers who come into the fold with the various OEMs, they also learn, they also understand what it requires now. Earlier, if they had got no avenue to drive that fast, they would say this is good enough.
Yeah.
And that good enough is not ever enough for the market that way.
And our Indian engineers can deliver sorted cars. Look at the XUV 700, for instance. It's been done in India and is great in terms of ride as well as handling. The Tata cars, for instance, no, in terms of ride quality, they're very good. They're not too shabby in terms of the handling. A little understeer, but they're good. No, they're well sorted.
No, they're well sorted.
It's getting there.
I think there is a good mix of thought on structural stiffness, how to do that. They balance that with not going too much overweight so that fuel efficiency is impacted. They are getting onto a bigger wheels, larger wheels, but yet trying to see that steering is not what we call going to be wishy-washy. So there are so many nuances now, and the people who have started learning the art of dynamics to be monitored and the lessons learned from there translated to the assembly line, I think it can only do a world of good for our engineering cadre,
Excellent. Let's move on to something that, we didn't really try this out. This was the M5 Competition Facelift. So it was the same as the earlier M5, but the facelift also went down to the regular 5 Series and the 6 GT. The facelift wasn't so path-breaking, but the whole 6 GT and 5 Series flanking the E-Class, what did you think of that strategy?
They had to, because the 5 Series was not going anywhere, And you, in a time phase where we are right now stuck in, we needed some more variety coming with the blue and white propeller badged cars from Munich. So they had to, do that. So they threw in these flankers along the ranks. And I think that they would have just about kept the enthusiasm bubbling across. They had to react some way. They were hard-pressed to do it in any other form than this.
So the 6 GT is a longer wheelbase 5 Series, but with the GT styling, which some people like, some people don't like, but it adds a lot of practicality. You get a much bigger board. I think the new GT
I like that.
Nice.
I like those cars.
And they had a similar strategy with the 3 Series, where they had the 3 GT. And the 3 GT was a bestseller in the BMW range. But now they have the long wheelbase 3 Series. So they have the regular wheelbase, and they
give me a 5 regular thing. Don't make a long wheelbase 3. Keep the 3 the way it has got to be: compact, lithe, agile, that way. Keep the 5 Series that. I've seen over the years, every manufacturer across the globe, every new generation version of existing models has grown bigger, wider, longer. So what has happened is that then suddenly that basic character and the basic essence of that car has just been blown. Sometimes in a good manner, but many a times not in such a good manner.
So Adil, bear with me. I always had this kind of reservation to the long wheelbase 3 Series, and I thought, let that be just in the luxury line pack.
True.
And you have your M Sport and all the sporty looking cars in the regular wheelbase 3 Series. Last week, we drove the 330 Li M Sport. So the long wheelbase has got the 330 engine, and it also has the M Sport body kit. And I was like, no, this should not be done. Then I went out and drove it, and for the life of me, I couldn't see why this should not be recommended. Because with the Li, you get slightly better ride comfort. 95% of the time, you can't feel the suspension differences or the dynamic differences with the regular wheelbase 3 Series. It looks cool. This doesn't look stretched out and ungainly. So I just couldn't, as an enthusiast, I want to say no, don't buy it. But you put your thinking hat on, and there is no reason not to buy it.
You said that you love drifting, right?
Yeah. This damn thing also does it.
No, hear me out. A slightly wider car. If you go a little offline, maybe the Armco barrier and the metal might. So what I'm saying, the compactness of the original 3, I think that should be adhered to. That that gives the car its basic character.
Mhm. Now, if I am confused and I'm supposed to be a so-called expert, I don't know what regular people will be going through when they go to a BMW dealership. You have a regular 3 Series, a long wheelbase.
They don't drift, Jirish. They go straight. They pull out their checkbooks. They say, "What is the color? Oh, this color is not available. I'm going to Mercedes-Benz. Oh, Mercedes-Benz also doesn't have a color. I'm going to Jaguar." So, this sort of a buyer is so very much clued in that way. And today, given the fact that delivery times are out of this world,
Yes.
so that becomes even more of a difficult time for these guys who have got too much money and don't know where to park it.
So, talking about delivery times, the GLS Maybach, okay, frightfully expensive, sold out.
It's not frightfully expensive compared to the Rolls Royce, and it's a good car.
Yeah, so that was sold out.
Yes.
I think it was great, okay, in terms of
Absolutely.
the equipment and the
Absolutely.
luxury on it. But
Technology.
but it does not come close to the S-Class. The new S-Class, oh my
But
God.
the S-Class has always been the defining car when you talk about where it is perched. There's no wonder that over the last 25 years, consistently it's been adjudged as the car which sets the benchmark for everyone else to follow in this perch. So, and Mercedes-Benz has every time got the latest technology in the S-Class, and from the S-Class it filters down to the E and the C and wherever it is there. So the same thing has happened, and it just doesn't go there, it goes to all the other rivals as well. So in that sort of sense, that is the flagship of luxury automobiles in the world.
So the first edition, which came over 2 crore rupees, we thought it was priced insane. But then when we drove it, we experienced it. We thought that, shit, this is probably good value for money.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's got rear wheel steering, all wheel steering. And for a car which is massive. And
massive.
honestly, it is massive.
It's massive in every sense of the day. It overpowers the senses,
But it's not difficult to drive. I drove it to Mumbai. In Mumbai, in traffic, it was fine. It was not a handful. That 4D sound system. Okay, when you think of it, it's like, no, why do you need speakers banging tunes into your body? But when you feel it, you feel the dum 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 in you.
It's another massage system for free.
Yeah, I agree. And the engines are refined, it handles the right comfort, even with the big 20-inch wheels, the right comfort.
I think when you look at that thing, and we are talking, this decade, we are on the cusp of transition with so many guys talking, let's go an electric future. We are seeing in the S-Class probably the best ever example of IC engine mobility in the world. So guys, it may not last long. I think another decade or so, we will be very happy with these cars and whatnot. But this is something to savor,
The EQS is coming, and Mercedes has announced that they're going to assemble it in India. It will be launched in India.
Don't ask me any questions on electric cars, please.
But we should actually do a podcast on electrics, because there's a lot of noise around electrics, and we'll come to that. Maybe the next one will be on electrics if you guys tell us to do it. So that's on the S-Class, which I thought was you cannot have a better luxury car.
Absolutely.
As the pinnacle of luxury that really stamps its authority.
Luxury, status, technology, sophistication, everything which you dream about, it's not science fiction, it is there.
Yeah. And now they've dropped prices by 50 lakhs. They've started assembling it here. Of course, you don't get the rear wheel steering, you don't get the 4D sound system, but it's good at that price. Now, if I could afford it, I'd buy it. Not in white, because white looks too maybe thunder.
Too bland.
Too bland, but man. So you did not want to talk about electrics, but we have to talk about the e-tron GT. Now that
sort of car I'm okay with.
Yeah. So that's a sporty electric car. Now, some would say it's the modern day R8, but this is the 4-door. So I would say it is the modern day RS7 Sportback. And I thought it
very
was
practical,
really nice.
And very nice, very practical. Trust me, electric cars will need to give that sort of raw edge thing, which is so refined as yet. But still, if you need to push it, it should deliver you the sort of adrenaline rush which some of the bigger engine cars can give us, And Audi has always what you call married its power plants to its transmissions, and then the way it is delivered onto the road via the wheel. That thing, that is an art form, the Quattro, what they had got. It's been refined and refined and refined, and now it's come with the electric thing. The e-tron GT really blew my mind. To be honest with you, I had said it in my thing when I did the EQS also and all that. The e-tron was the car which made me feel alive. EQS, I would went to sleep because I was being driven.
So the e-tron GT, it has got air suspension, but even the regular ride height is good enough for speed breakers. It doesn't touch. I don't know how Audi do it, but Audi, none of their cars are worrying over regular Indian roads. Some of the AMGs, they do touch. You got to be sensible. But Audi, they just get their tire sizes right. They get their ride height right. They've got air suspension, so they load it properly so that you don't skimp out on essential equipment.
Shall I come in here and just what you call hazard a thought process? Can the Audi engineers work a little bit of the magic on the Volkswagen cars here in India? If they can do that, I think we'll have a great sort of car in the affordable classes, you know.
So that was the e-tron GT. And of course, Audi started their electric journey with the e-tron SUV. They showed it actually 2 years before, and they took their own sweet time into bringing it to India. In fact, they were going to bring it before Mercedes, but then Mercedes beat them to the punch with the EQC. Though, that said, the e-tron actually, it outperformed the EQC in terms of comfort, in terms of the usability.
I think both the cars are not easily, you cannot compare them or put them in the same basket, so to speak. It's just that both are electric. So you end up comparing them that way. So and given Mercedes thought process, they will always service the luxury prestige segment of their constituency, whereas Audi by nature has to be sportier. So that's how the things pan out there. You know?
I did a drive to Goa at the end of the year from Pune to Goa. We obviously had to set up a charger in Kolhapur and wait 2.5 hours until it juiced up. But apart from that,
how did you spend those 2.5 hours?
We went to the McDonald's, then we went to...
How much can you eat at McDonald's?
No, then we went to Dehati and we had a Kolhapuri mutton thali. And
you can spend 5 hours there.
So we actually ended up spending 3.5 hours in Kolhapur because of the eating.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not practical.
Because you might end up with a bigger Porsche than what you have right now. So electric cars, this is another big, what you call fallback thing.
Watch out for your Porsche.
Watch out for your Porsche when you wait.
So that infrastructure has to come. But if you discount that wait period, the drive was superb. It's so easy to drive an electric car, so stress-free. It handles so well because the battery pack is low down and these are heavier than your regular ICE cars. But because the battery packs are lower, they handle really well.
Not just that, the weight distribution is superb. It's near 50-50, you know.
Yeah, so the thing that I noticed with electric cars is that because the batteries are low down, dynamically, they're really sorted. So initially, because you don't have those sensations of noise, of vibrations, no gear shifts, you don't realize how fast you're going. And then you enter the corner and sometimes you're like understeering and you're wondering, oh, but you don't realize that you're going through those corners at some phenomenal speed. So if you have a passenger and the passenger is looking at the speedo, the passenger has soiled their pants straight off.
I've always said passengers know, and when you're going very fast, never look sideways, either at the speedo or the driver or what on the look straight. And never stress out the driver by holding his thigh. Don't do that, because the guy, what I see with these sort of cars, which have got so much of grip in them, and especially electric cars, the way not just the center of gravity is low, but the weight distribution is near 50-50. Makes for great handling, great steering, precisely pointing in the direction. Little input on the steering and it steers there. So, and that's what we said. What happens when dynamic engineers get tracks to play on at different speeds? All that translates into products like these, which that's exactly the evolution of the automobile, so to speak, you know.
So on electrics, we also have to talk about the Jaguar I-Pace. Now, to me, that is the best handling electric SUV.
Mission unfulfilled for Jaguar here in India.
Unfortunately, because it looks so cool.
Yes.
It actually predates the EQC and the e-tron globally, but it came to India after the EQC. It still looks cool. It goes really well, but there's just no buzz around it.
I don't know. the COVID issue, I think, knocked the leadership perch of JLR in India a little bit askew. I don't think that they have got to grips as to where and what they have to do, where they need to go, what they have to do to arrest any inertia in minds and whatnot, because the brands are terrific. But to be honest, as I see it, Jaguar has a great car, which again suffers from not enough input to grab customers' eyes and minds.
To me, the Land Rover Defender, I think that is fantastic.
But it's grown too big, Shirish.
Yeah,
it's grown too big, and the long wheelbase version is huge. I think it's gone away from the Land Rover philosophy when it started out with. You had small, light, nimble cars, mountain goats they could do, and now you have just gone on to a thing where Land Rover is trying to outdo Range Rover. I don't understand that.
But everything has grown. For instance, the Jeep Wrangler also, that has also grown. That has also become more luxurious. Though that is still more hardcore when you actually go off-roading.
Yes. So I think that you need to, understand the European thought process is we are going from the city to our country manner, so we'll go in the manner intended. The Americans, they need the big cars. They need, again, apart from the freeways in the US, the other roads are still outbacks where it's a mix of tarmac and broken stuff. So they need, and they do that. That's the reason why these cars are so hardy in the way they are built.
So when the Wrangler was launched in India, everybody went, oh, look at the pricing. But then they've started assembling it in India and the pricing has become somewhat sensible. And the Thar effect has actually helped them, because I know a few dealers and they say that after the Thar came, they actually had more people walking in for the Wrangler, because they're saying, we don't want the Aam Janta Thar. We want the more muscular, more luxurious, more expensive looking version.
The Rolls-Royce syndrome in COVID times has hit them for the better.
So a few dealers that I spoke to, they're saying that the interest in the Wrangler has gone up, and that's a good thing because I think the Wrangler has its own space, the Thar has its own space.
Absolutely.
They're not copies of each other.
But Thar didn't want to get the Wrangler space in its entirety. Of course, yes, it wanted to cash in on that thing because the price points were different.
Of course, those who could not afford a Wrangler buy a Thar.
Yeah, but I was in Bhopal a month ago, and there's a very good friend of mine who's a adventurer, a man who loves the great outdoors. He's a hunter in the sense that conservationist hunter, not anything else across over there. And he swears by his Wrangler. He loves the Wrangler to bits. So in that sense, when you look at Bhopal, is not the middle of India's automotive universe, but like him, there are many Wrangler owners there who swear by the car. So the only thing is that they don't like the service. And he said that very clearly. So he rather takes his car to Delhi and said Bhopal to Delhi is quite a drive. But he says that I'd rather get my car serviced there. So what I'm saying is and it goes not just for Jeep, it goes for any brand. Maybe probably not Mercedes-Benz so much because they have got a far-flung service network, touch points, etc. In the luxury business, you need to have far more effective service closer to your customers than anything else. But given the way our country is spread out geographically, it's huge. It's
not easy.
It's not easy, and it's a big challenge in the mind itself. You know?
So Jeep did that. They assembled the Wrangler, finally started assembling the Wrangler in India. And they also brought the facelift on the Compass. We actually should have spoken about that last time. But anyway, we are going to speak about it now. What do you think of it?
I didn't find too many differences there in that sort of sense, But yes, they needed to, tart it up a bit. They needed to show that, hey, the Compass is there.
It's still there.
It's still there. That's a very important thing they needed to do. And again, there also I'm seeing across over there, Jeep should have done a little bit more on the ground, it's a brand where people are outgoing amongst all the luxury brands of what we are discussing here. Jeep is one which can go any and everywhere, which the others might be a little reticent to go. So this is where I feel the Jeep management here in India should stay Jeep and not stay FCA. That is exactly.
Well, Adil, so that brings me to a good point because it's no longer FCA. Now it is Stellantis. And the merger is also happening in India. So Citroen's operations and Jeep operations are being merged into one entity. Roland Bushara, who was heading Citroen, is now heading the entire Stellantis operation. What do you think that will bring about? Now, if you look at the number of plants, they have Tiruvallur down in Chennai. They have the Hosur engine plant for Citroen, which is now again Stellantis. Then you have Ranjangaon for FCA, Jeep, again now Stellantis. So many operations, so many offices, people in all corners. How does this whole come together?
I don't think I can very well speak on their behalf, or I don't want to be in their position right now because they are still sussing it out what they need to do. But yes, they will have to rationalize. They'll have to get on top of this very quickly because when you look at it, at the Citroen A-Cross which we have got, it's a very good alternative to the Germans. It has got the Golic flair and that is what they wanted.
And the Golic ride.
Very good. Everything. So they have got that thing. It's different. It's appealing in its charm and whatnot. But Jeep cannot be made effeminate like Citroen. I'm not saying Citroen is effeminate, but it cannot be. So Jeep needs to stay a little bit raw in that sort of sense. Much more hardier, go anywhere. So you cannot have a product manager handling both Citroen and Jeep. They will have to have different mindsets. Only then will they succeed.
So the Compass and the Citroen C5 Aircross are actually priced almost similar. In fact, with the facelift, the Compass prices went up. So earlier it used to be under the Tucson. Now it is more than the Tucson. So I think the pricing is a little really expensive for the fully loaded top end Compass.
As I'm seeing across over there, even for the A-Cross, I thought the pricing was way too high.
Optimistic.
Way too optimistic. And it's shown in the way the car hasn't moved off the showrooms as much as they do. I love the car, but it gave me a fright when the pricing came out. So in that sort of sense, you need to, see to it. In a way, if the prices were sensible, it would be a good thing to have two brands in the same price points, but with different characters completely. But if you take the price point way high, then you're suddenly trading in the land of the Germans, and there you'll get trampled.
Yeah, you're entering the German territory.
Yeah, you'll get trampled.
There is no getting away from the brand value. The
no
brand
way,
pull.
no way.
You have a Mercedes in your garage, or you have a Jeep or a Citroen in your. It's a different ballgame altogether.
Absolutely. The battle of perception is lost straight away over there.
So on this, a very dear friend of mine, a couple of years ago, he bought a GLC, and his dream, like a lot of people, their dream was to buy a Mercedes.
Correct.
Now that he has had 3-4 years with the GLC, he's now gone and booked a Tiguan. And he's like, okay, I've got that Mercedes thing out. Now I want to go back to comfort. I want more space. I want more features. The badge is okay. It's fine. It's good that it's there. Okay. But Volkswagen is good enough for me. And now he's gone and booked a Tiguan. And I think that is also showing the maturity of the market.
For sure.
That it's not blind brand value.
Earlier it was. It still is to a great extent in certain, and what we are talking about, that sort of consumer is in that sort of sense. But yes, the guy who has experienced it, he's seen whether his pocket has been lightened to a great extent with service and whatnot. Because let's face one fact, all the cars we are discussing here, service costs are huge. Insurance and service costs. Forget about the running costs, the petrol or the diesel, or I don't think it matters much to them. But service costs and insurance costs are huge. So you'll have to think a little rationally there.
Talking about sensible cars, we also have Skoda in this list. We have both the Superb and we have the Octavia. Let's start with the Superb. I think it ticks all the right boxes. The space, the comfort, the space, and even more space, and the boot space. It's all there. Everything that you'd want in a luxury car. In the past, when people were buying Accords, this fits perfectly in that Accord buyer segment. Only problem is there is no Accord buyer anymore.
And that is where it's to Skoda's disadvantage in a way. Because it suddenly is lost in a sea of SUVs.
Yes.
it's lost.
It's the outlier.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So nothing wrong with the car. The car is the flagship of the Skoda range. In so many ways, it is symptomatic of the way the Czechs do luxury. And it's a good way it's done that thing. The iffiness in this thing with Volkswagen and Skoda, the pyrotechnics within India across over there, have confused the buyer to a certain extent as well. So unless and until there's some cohesiveness in messaging, then I think the Skoda Superb stands a chance.
But then what about the top-end Octavia being just 2-3 lakhs cheaper than the Sportline Superb?
That's also exactly, it's what you call, you're cutting things too fine. So if the thing happens that it's only a matter of about a couple of lakhs, no one's going to look at the Octavia, damn it. So people will have...
The Octavia is actually very nice, and the Octavia has always been nice.
Yeah, but the thing is that we Indians like to be a little flashy when we are splurging out, and we want to say, oh, superb. It has to be costlier than the other one. Oh, you bought a cheaper car. So this sort of a thing. And in this segment of buyer, snobbishness is quite a lot.
So when the Octavia was going to be launched before its price announcement, we said that this is the last hope to save the sedan against the onslaught of SUVs. And then when we got it, we did a comparison test with the two. So we didn't know the price. Before we put out that video, we came to know about the price.
Sirish, what I'm seeing across over here, why are the car makers so hesitant in putting their might, their thought processes into delivering a great sedan? I just don't understand. Every manufacturer...
buyers are not there?
Not necessarily so. It's just that they have not what... Like I said, Toyota, for instance, or Honda, for instance, they have priced themselves out of the reckoning, If they had played to their strengths, like the first generation Honda City, can we go back to that ethos and build a car like that?
VTEC kicked in
Yeah. So we need to what you call, go back to basics there. And I think sedans will still be what you call appealing.
Because we are using a Honda City now. And I think it's the easiest car in the world. It's so refined, so easy to drive.
Someone asked me the other day, what sedan should I buy? This. Should I buy? And then he himself asked me, should I buy the Honda City? I said, you should buy the thing. And let's not knock it because it's the best. Up till now, it still is the best in its segment. It's just that it's so overwhelmingly familiar. And what they say, familiarity breeds contempt. It's not, so it doesn't need to do that. And the Honda is still the benchmark.
It is, except people are buying SUVs. So most Honda City customers are now buying Cretas. And that's the big problem. So I don't know what manufacturers can do over there. And then talking about SUVs. Now we've got a long list of more SUVs. Like I was saying, the Land Rover Defender. I thought it was brilliant. And I don't understand why there aren't more Defenders on the road. It's just a sign of maybe Land Rover, Jaguar Land Rover India not pushing it enough. We've got luxury cars. Now, we got the Aston Martin Dbx.
Just a minute, before we go to Land Rover pushing enough. They're not pushing at all.
Not pushing at all?
They're not pushing at all. I think that in a certain manner, they have made it a mission statement to go easy with the Range Rover, Land Rover and Jaguar in India. I don't understand why, but that is the sort of a thing. And there are so many subtle nuances which come to the fore. People having been chopped off, a lot of measures being tightened where they should never have been tightened and whatnot. It doesn't behove well for the customer who sees through all these things, That's why, and it doesn't need to have happened like that. Ironically, it's come at a time when Tata Motors is doing so very well.
Yes. Yeah.
So I find these mixed signals really confusing.
Yeah, because their products are really good.
Very
Even the Discovery Sport, it adopts the styling from the bigger Discovery, but it is in a nice segment of its own. And in fact, if you would compare it with the GLC, for instance,
Yeah.
the Discovery Sport does a better job in India
Absolutely.
because of the space it offers, because of the ride comfort it offers, also because it has genuine the SUV roots.
Correct, yes.
You know, it can do SUV-ish things.
True,
It doesn't
true,
have low
true,
ratio, but
true.
it can do
True.
serious SUV stuff.
True.
So you should see more of them, but you don't see more of them, whereas you see tons of GLCs on the road. And I think it is to do with not communicating the strengths
That's
of the product.
precisely what I'm saying, that these guys have just gone to sleep there.
Yeah. And even if we just had the SUVs, we would have done more stories on it. And we would have done marketing for them anyway.
No, don't do that. We should market for the consumer what we feel like. That is the right thing.
Which I feel that a lot of more people should be buying the Discovery Sport
Of
because
course.
it suits them better. Like this friend of mine who bought the GLC, he should have bought a Discovery Sport. Then he would have stuck with an SUV and not moved to something else.
Well,
luxury
he's
SUV.
one of those few guys who's a owner-driver. Many of the time, you buy these cars to assert your position or your standing in society. So there's a and 99% of the guys who buy these SUVs, the most off-roading they'll do is go over speed breakers. I don't think they'll
Or
ever
climb it over a footpath.
or climb it
And
over.
then cut their tire.
And that's about it. So
Yeah. On SUVs, now BMW iX, it is coming to India. Next month, it is coming. Electrics are going to
Yes.
be big. Now, we'll talk in depth about electrics in a bit. But what do you think of the styling of the iX?
you'll need to get used to it. You'll need those gaping large holes. If any pedestrian is there, I'm sure he'll be swallowed in and spit out.
And there's no
And then
need to cool anything. Earlier grills, big
Yes,
grills were to
yes,
cool the
yes.
engine. There's nothing. There's
There's
no engine
nothing.
over there. So
There's
I
nothing.
don't know what that is. But yeah, it will take time to
Yes,
get used
yes,
to.
yes.
What I don't think will take time to get used to is the Aston Martin Dbx styling. What a beautiful SUV.
Aston Martin, I always felt amongst all the British sports car makers, even better than Jaguar, I found Aston Martin was, no wonder James Bond wanted to drive that. So in that, I'm not saying that we are James Bond, but yes, Aston Martin brings that sheer delight, visual delight to the eyes. And when you see it move and with the exhaust note and whatnot, it's a different ball game altogether.
Though actually to drive, a Cayenne Turbo is a much nicer SUV to drive.
Yeah, but
to
Cayenne
look
Turbo,
at-
but Cayenne Turbo is, like I said, very, what we call the antiseptic when you look at the Aston Martin. You know?
Porsche. Now Porsche is coming back on stream. They've got a new boss here. He's revamping the entire operation, focusing more on the dealers, getting stronger dealer partners. He told me something interesting that earlier Porsche's cars, all the display cars were very drab colors. But then he got 7 sports cars, so a mix of 911s and Caymans, in all different colors, bright, vibrant colors. They parked it outside the Kochi Porsche dealership. And within a week or 10 days, all of them were gone. And that's when he realized that no, India, there is
Of
demand.
course.
But you have to go with the flow of Indians.
Sirish, so many times I've said, for a Porsche, they always looked at whether it's a black 911 or a silver 911. But 911 looks good even in red. Good looks good even in
Yellow.
green, yellow. So what I'm saying is, where did they go? What happened to them? The guys were too dazzled or blinded by those colors. You should know because you were there as a PR guy for some years.
So the first Porsche, the 911 that we ordered, it was a yellow with a brown interior with yellow seat
No
belts.
wonder the guy held it against you that you ordered that. Sales were happening more and he didn't want to be faced with a barrage of customer inquiries.
And the second one we ordered was a Cayenne GTS in that red. Oh, so at least I did my job and I was there. I don't know after that. But Porsche, they are coming back. The Taycan has been launched.
Yes.
The deliveries are going to start anytime now. And the Taycan obviously is the father of the e-tron GT.
As I see it across over there, this whole bunching of brands in the VW group, everyone has a different role to play. And you cannot put it under a mother umbrella and say, do this and this is your target. Let Porsche carve its own furrow in India. Like how Bentley does, like how Lamborghini does. Don't please let Porsche fight with Lamborghini for sales in the Indian market. Let Lamborghini fight Bentley for sales. I think within acceptable reasons, they should be allowed to fight. And they should be allowed to stand out with their core USPs, you know.
And other that reminds me, Lamborghini, they had a record 2021. 66 cars or something like that, which is the best that they've ever done. They outsell other super luxury brands. And in terms of perception, now I attended a Lamborghini Day event. We drove from Bangalore to Hampi. They had 25 cars, and because of COVID restrictions back then, they couldn't get all 40 that they were actually going to have. And the thing that I realized is that these customers who come for Lamborghini Day events, they keep their Lamborghinis because they will get an invite to a Lamborghini Day event. It's that premium. It is that the draw of that event is phenomenal. And they don't, and they don't invite prospects. Only if you've got delivery of your Lamborghini, you bring your own Lamborghini and come for an event. But they do really high quality events.
But this is what I've said. This is what I said about Jeep. Jeep has not done its continuity good by not engaging them on the ground where it matters.
Of course, COVID would not have helped that either.
No, not just that. Then there's so many manufacturers the last 1 year have been doing so. And Jeep, again, like I said, you don't need to take 100 Jeeps. 25 Jeeps is great enough. And all 25 will not come from all over. They'll come from some pockets. Lack of initiative in the mind is what really puts the brakes on progress of these brands.
Yeah, but Lamborghini, I don't think there's any...
They are outlandish. I love Lamborghini because they are that way.
Urus every week and still continuing. They've got this pearl capsule, which is fancy paints, fancy price tag, and that is selling. It's phenomenal. And plus, the Urus is actually leading to sports car sales. So when I was at the Lamborghini Day event, an Urus owner took delivery of his Huracan Evo.
Wow.
And the reason for that, very interesting story. He took the Urus to show it to his dad, saying that I bought my first Lamborghini. And his dad said that aren't Lamborghini sports cars? Yeah, because that's what Lamborghinis were.
True.
So his next Lamborghini, in fact, his next expensive car was a Huracan Evo. So Uruses are actually leading to sports car sales, which is a very good thing. We all thought that the Urus is going to kill the sports car.
No, they'll never.
The same way that the Cayenne is actually leading to so many better and better sports cars.
Porsche really didn't know what they were up to, but they're laughing their way to the bank.
Yes, yeah,
okay,
that's true.
Yeah.
So I think that's about covers it. We had the Bentayga facelift, but that maybe 2-3 were sold in India. We also had the Volvo SC90, the update.
Sirish, like I was saying, thinking aloud across over there. Can we think across over there if try to marry best of so many worlds into one car? Say the size of a Toyota RAV4 with say BMW mechanicals, Audi all-wheel drive, quattro stuff, Mercedes-Benz integration in the cockpit and whatnot. A package which is small, compact, nimble, 4 guys can travel comfortably with, and the wherewithal to go places. Tar, off-road, climb mountains, do dune bashing. I think some manufacturer worth his salt has to attempt that.
Adil, isn't that called a Thar?
Thar needs that sophistication still.
True. So you guys tell us what should be this ideal car. The engine from say a BMW, the chassis from say an Audi, the powertrain from somewhere else, the interiors from another manufacturer. You tell us what would be your ideal spec of a perfect vehicle for India in terms of performance, handling, go anywhere ability, luxury, comfort, affordability. And we probably discuss that on the next podcast.
Okay.
And before we end, let's finally talk about the Toyota Hilux.
Oh, I love it, actually speaking. I love that car. I love the way and I love it in that red and that chrome thing. It's just perfect, It's just actually speaking, my cousin wanted to buy a pickup and he was badgering me last year regarding the Isuzu. So I told him, hold on. And now he says, I made him hold on and now he's put his money down for the Hilux.
How much money should you put down on a Hilux? Because
just about as much as a Fortuner, unfortunately.
Yes.
Yeah. That's where it really, queers the pitch, And must understand, the Fortuner has been born out of the Hilux and not the other way around. It's just the Hilux has come later over here. And the Hilux is more Americanized pickup sort of version, which does very well in Southeast Asia also, in Australia and whatnot. It'll again depend on how much Toyota wants to push it. As I know Toyota, with their step-by-step approach, they'll be very happy to eat into Isuzu's pie and they'll expand that pie. So Isuzu will still do its numbers, but Toyota will do as many numbers as Isuzu does. And I think the Japanese will be pretty pleased with it. We'll be left tearing our hair discussing that. And the consumer will say, why is it priced so much? But he'll still go and buy it.
So we look forward to going and driving the Toyota Hilux. We should be doing that in the next couple of weeks. Next month in March, we will know what the pricing finally is. We don't think it will be anything less than 35 lakhs to start with. So it is going to be expensive, but demand has been so good. And that's the thing with Toyota. They keep raising prices of the Krista, of the Fortuner. It continues to sell. The same thing, Hilux, everybody knows that it's going to be 35-40 lakh rupees.
True.
But bookings have been so strong. Yesterday, they actually stopped bookings because they couldn't handle it.
No, not because they can handle it. They had already planned only so many vehicles. That's the Toyota way. They will not go overboard. So they say, we will do so many for India this year, full stop. So even if they get twice the numbers, they say, sorry, we'll only do this.
Yeah. So that's all we have on this edition of the Thrill of Driving podcast. Next podcast, Adil, on electrics.
Let us talk about, we are coming close to a thing which is going to happen very shortly. And I think we are on the cusp of a big shake-up in Formula One. Okay. And up till now, two people who the world wants to listen to have not spoken. One is Lewis Hamilton, which everyone knows he's scared. But the other guy who's not spoken is Michael Massey.
I don't think he's going to be allowed to speak anything.
So what I'm saying is, we got to watch how that thing pans out, because the sport hinges on that one aspect as to how FIA looks at this thing and clears that thing. Because let's face it, one thing, having reviewed everything, the last 5 laps were a sham because protocols were not followed. And I think that in a sport, I don't care who wins, but if the rules are not sacrosanct there in their implementation, then it becomes like, who's my favorite? What do I do? Even though he may not have been there, but it points to that, and you cannot have that.
Yeah. So we will come back once all the cars are unveiled. We'll do a F1 podcast. I'm waiting to see how these new generation Formula One cars are going to look like. Completely different from everything that's gone for the past decade or so. So that's going to be really cool. If you enjoyed this podcast, give us a thumbs up. Also share this with like-minded enthusiasts, and don't forget to subscribe to the Evo India channel. Don't miss out on any of our video drops, our podcast drops, and on our opinions.
And very importantly, once you step out after this podcast and try to get out of your doors, do mask up, because I think the world needs to be safe and you need to be safe as well.
So be safe, enjoy the thrill of driving and riding, and Adil, we'll catch up next week and
wonderful. Let's
talk
do that.
About electrics, Formula One, whatnot. Let us know what all we should be talking about. Thank you guys for listening and watching.
Done? Great.
Super.
Chalo, abhi chai pilao.